what's up? And that still sticks with me. And every time I hear Shane, I'm way past the movie Shane when I talk about Shane from Scale Trains, but Shane, what's up, brother? And now let's cut over to Shane and let's see what's happening.
Sponsor for this year's virtual railroad hobby show. I'm here with Drayton, and we have a lot of exciting things to share. And I also want to give a big shout out to the virtual Railfan team. We're actually in studio at virtual Railfan. They let us set up our trade show display. Believe it or not, we're just about a half an hour from where virtual Railfan is. And so these guys have been really gracious and very helpful to allow us to be set up here and having a lot of fun. And it's kind of neat to see the behind the scenes. And we wanted to bring a little flavor of the trade show, right? This is a mini version of our trade show booth, and kind of give us a little bit of normalcy. We really miss being in New England, except maybe the weather this year. You know, it's a little warmer in southeast Tennessee, but we're looking forward to seeing everyone next year. So we're going to kick it off, Drayton. And do you want to introduce the first product, and then we'll tell everybody a little bit about it?
Absolutely. So I'm excited to announce the all-new rivet counter in scale Greenbrier Gunderson Multi-Max freight car. Pretty amazing, Shane.
So this one is a really highly requested car. You know, we're doing the Big Brother in HO scale, and now we're going to bring it to N. And I'm going to pick it up here in my hand, and I'll make sure I keep it close so that we don't move it around a lot on camera. This is a car that the N-scale market's really asked us to do over and over again, and so we're really excited to bring it. This car, if you're a modern modeler, which a lot of N-scalers are, this is a 2014 to today car. Very common. You'll see it a lot. You name the railroad. Every major Class 1 in North America, be it Burlington Northern, Santa Fe, BNSF, of course, CSX, CP, CN, UP has them, Norfolk Southern has them, and you'll see them all the time mixing the trains. And what's really cool is this gives you some variety in your auto rack trains. The big spotting feature you'll see, these cars have these large logo panels, and a lot of times the railroads will put their big logos on. It really helps it stand out. For BNSF and Norfolk Southern, they put their logos actually on a flat panel that's part of the corrugated siding. All the other railroads are going to have them out here. And of course, being a rivet counter model, we do all that railroad road number era specific detail. 4 different car bodies. You've got an early, an intermediate, a late, and a current version. You've got a couple of different styles of indoors. This one, of course, is the later indoor. It's got an angle to it. The early indoors have kind of step look to them. You'll also see some of the detail on the ends. You'll see like stirrup steps here. There's 3 different types of end configurations. You've got stirrup steps. You got stirrup steps with grab irons. You got on the end, and then there's another version with grab irons on the sides. There's also 3 different ladder types. There's a 4-run ladder, and then there's 3-run ladders mounted short and high. And then, of course, you've got all the underframe detail and all the plumbing up underneath. You've got, of course, the body-mounted trucks with the metal wheels. You've got body-mounted couplers, and of course, you've also got the coupler cut levers there on the end. Also on these cars, you know, they're a really common car. So if you have like our Tier 4 Gevo in N-scale, or you've got the Dash 9 in N-scale, these will be perfect mated up to those cars.
Definitely. So Shane, as you mentioned, this car is requested all the time on Facebook. We see your comments, and we definitely keep track of all of the requests that we get in on social media. And definitely the Multi-Max is one of the most requested N-scale cars that we have. But one of the things I wanted to ask you about, Shane, was the development process. How long has this car been in development, just to give our viewers an understanding of how long it takes to bring a model train to market?
Well, that's a great question. So Drayton and I had the opportunity to visit our factory in China. Been over a year ago now. We were there in November of 19. And we're actually working on a brand new video. It's part 1 of how model trains are made, kind of like Star Wars, going backwards. And in that video, we're going to be showing some of the CAD work. When we were there, what we do is we start with the HO model, and then and you'll actually see the CAD work where the design engineer is figuring out which things will scale down and look right, and figuring out which things won't, taking some parts off. Some things just won't scale correctly. So we saw those drawings in that was in November of 19.
Yeah.
And literally, this car, the deco sample, arrived in our office on let's see, that was Monday afternoon.
Monday. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can see that it's that close. We only have 1 car to display. The factory is actually working on all the deco samples, or decoration samples, so we'll have all those. We'll see those in late February. And as we talk about that too, and all the different models, one thing that's really good to bring up too is we're offering quantity buy pricing, because you see these cars mixed in really long trains, and there's some pretty big savings on that, and it's a great way then to buy more cars, essentially buy more, save more.
Yeah, so consumer pricing 1 to 5 cars is $44.99. Consumer pricing for 6 to 11 cars is $42.99. And consumer pricing for 12 plus cars is $39.99. Pretty awesome right out of the box.
Yeah, and that price point's really competitive with other auto racks in the market, so folks can start to flush out their multi-mac or their auto rack train.
Yeah, you can basically run unit trains now, and as Shane mentioned, one of the things that you'll see in that video is they literally take the HO car and just completely scale it down, and they do all kinds of tests and simulations, so you can actually see how these cars will handle curves in a computer simulation. It's really amazing the amount of engineering, and the same rivet counter quality that you're used to in HO scale, that is what you're going to get in the N-scale Greenbrier Gunderson Multi-Max.
So a couple quick questions that we think here folks might want to know. That we'll hear a lot about are the panels see-through. One of the things about this car, it's what's called an anti-graffiti car. This is one of the really new modern auto racks. Even in the HO models, the holes are really so small that you have to be in the exact right light to be able to see through the real car, and it's pretty rare that you can do that. So in N-scale, when you scale those holes down, there's no way to see through. So what we did is these panels are actually plastic, but they're very finely detailed. As you can see, we'll be posting product video here soon. Products going live on our website as we speak. And then the other thing we'll probably get questions on are about the indoors. The indoors do not open. One thing that you'll find is these doors are what are instead of being like a clamshell door like a traditional auto rack, these are a bifold door, and the idea is they seal really tight and they protect it from people getting in and vandalizing the cars, and that mechanism would be very, very delicate, and because you can't see in the car anyway, we don't have that feature on the HO or the N-scale model.
Yeah, basically the Multi-Max is probably about 30 to 40 years worth of engineering that Greenbrier came to. They wanted to create a car that was easier to load vehicles into, but also a car that protected the automobiles on the inside, and that's beautifully captured here on the Multi-Max.
Awesome. Well, should we talk about our second release?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about this one.
All right, let's reach under the table.
All right.
It's like a magic trick.
I'll hand him up to you, Shane.
So this is our second release. This is a Kit Classics freight car. And we've been a little, we've been wanting to add to the Kit Classics line, and we've been getting to the point now where we're getting ahead on a few things, and I'm going to pull this over. We got a little bit more room here. This is a CB&Q Havelock Shops 52-foot 6-inch gondola. This was built by the Burlington in the late 60s. Very unique car. And some of the things that you'll notice about this car that really set it apart from other gondolas is you look at the top cord, it has a square profile, and it runs between the two ladders on the car, or I should say the grab irons on the ends of the car. And then if you look down low on the sill, it actually has like a flat plate, and that plate runs just beyond the two final ribs on the car. So there's it's a pretty unique car, but it's a pretty common size. It's 52-foot, 6-inch, and because of that, we're going to put a lot of paint schemes on it. Granted, they're not quite accurate for this car, but when you look at the price point that we're trying to maintain, we're still way under $20 selling price, and the car still has a ton of detail. That was one of the things we heard a lot about on the box car, and you'll notice like underneath that sill, there's going to be small rivet detail all underneath, all along the sill. When you look inside the car, you'll see all the board detail, and you'll see the rivets on the boards. The end of the car has all the corrugations, just like the prototype. You've got the crossover platform. The grabs are very finely molded on the car. And one of the things too that we did that's a little bit different, I don't know if we'll be able to see on camera, but you'll be able to see on our website, actually came up with a underframe plumbing that is a separate piece. Yeah. And it gives it more of a 3D look on this car. And then one thing too, when I picked it up, it reminded me of the car's really heavy.
Yeah, it is.
It's it's probably a little bit beyond NMRA specs. It's a heavy car, so it'll track well. Yeah. And like all of our Kit Classics car, of course, you've got metal wheels, you've got knuckle couplers, and super simple to assemble. Probably take you less than 10 minutes to put the car together.
So Shane, this is actually our second Kit Classics car, and for folks who are unfamiliar with our brands, could you go into that a little bit so they're a little more familiar with Kit Classics and the rest of our brands?
So we have 4 brands, and the idea for Kit Classics, you know, if you harken back to the old blue box days, the old shake the box kits, that's the whole idea of Kit Classics. Simple to build, value price point, and not a lot of detail, but very finely rendered detail.
Yeah.
And we tend to take some liberty with paint schemes, right? Because it helps keep those price points down. For this particular car, we're at $17.99. The box car, I think, is still hanging around $14.99. And then our goal is probably once a year for the next couple of years, we'll add a car to the Kit Classics line. I don't really see us getting beyond maybe 5 or 6 cars, just because the more detail you add, the higher the cost goes, and it gets it close to what our next brand, which is the Operator brand. Operator brand is for people who like to run trains, like realistic detail, aren't as concerned about having all the railroad road number specific detail. And the great thing about that then is it allows us to hit a good value price point. Most of our Operator freight cars in that $25 to $30 range. Locomotives are going to, non-sound, are going to start around $100, $105, and then we're going to get to the up to the locomotives with DCC and sound. We're now including the ESU5 decoder, so that's bumped the price point up. Still hanging under $200 though for an Operator locomotive. Next brand is Rivet Counter. That's our most popular brand. Rivet Counter locomotives, or freight cars, I'm sorry, have all that railroad road number area specific details just like the locomotives. Freight cars are going to be in that, you know, probably around $40, $45 for most cars. Locomotives are going to start about $175. And then later today, we're actually going to announce our next museum quality locomotive.
It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, and museum quality is our top of the line brand. The world's kind of morphed since we announced the Big Blow turbine. Back when we announced the Big Blow, you know, class lights and ground lights and interior lights.
Really unheard of.
Yeah, I mean, really hadn't been done to that point. Now they become the industry standard. A couple of things we'll kind of preview on the locomotive today that, you know, you're going to see ground lights on both sides of the locomotive. You're going to see walkway lights, 3 walkway lights. You're going to see, well, I might give away too much away if I start talking about class lights and ditch lights. But
as I like to say, that thing is lit.
Yeah. There's over 30 LEDs in some of this on this locomotive that we'll be showing later this afternoon. So the only real difference now in museum quality are a few lighting effects, and between museum quality and Rivet Counter, a few lighting effects, the frog clank, the curved squeal, and then of course the packaging is a little bit more premium on the museum quality brand. Plus you still get the museum quality pin and of course the magnifying glass, so you can see the difference.
So if you're new to our company, now that you're a lot more familiar with our brands, going back to the Kit Classic brand, one of the nice things about the Kit Classics car is that you can actually store the model back in the original packaging, and it'll actually store the model safely. You know, one of the things that Scale Trains we try to strive for is taking the elements from our childhood. You know, Shane, back in the day, you had all those
Thanks
blue
for
box.
making me sound old. I appreciate it.
You had all those blue box kits, and you'd build your cars, but the package wouldn't store them, and so you'd have broken couplers, broken trucks. But the packaging here with these Kit Classics car keeps them safe, and plus you've got all this nice detail on the underside of the car, so that's going to be protected by the packaging. That's a big deal.
Yeah. So that really wraps it up for the announcements, but
we got some footage to show some,
do we have some
folks.
footage?
Yeah, so Mark McAllister, you might know him from product support. If you've ever had a problem with any of our products, you know, we try our best to take care of you. And Mark's the guy that you probably have talked to on the phone, and he's live right now from Ed Painter's house, and he's actually got some more samples of the Kit Classics gondolas, and you'll be seeing them here shortly. Wait here just a minute. Here we go.
Action.
Thanks, Shane Drayton. Mark McAllister here with product support at scaletrains.com. We're here in beautiful Northwest Georgia with our good friend Ed Painter. We're here at Ed's Railroad today talking about our brand new Kit Classics CB&Q Havelock Shops gondola car. We've got all 6 road names represented today, but first, let's talk to Ed and have him tell us a little bit about his railroad. Ed?
Well, I moved to Cuthata, Georgia about 4 years ago, and built a new home and built a 1,900 square foot basement in the home specifically for model railroad. I modeled from 1964 to 1982, Norfolk and Western and the Southern are the two primary railroads that I model. I have a lot of other railroads beyond that, but those are the two primary ones. The name of the railroads is the Virginia Piedmont, Appalachian, and Western, which represents where I'm from in Virginia. We've got it to the point where it runs pretty well. We've got a lot more work to do. We're going to have a lot of coal mines on this railroad, coal-fired power plants, coke ovens, paper mills, all kinds of things that are fun to switch and operate cars in and out of. So it's going to be fun. Need to get back to work on it here sometime soon too.
Sounds like a lot of fun to operate.
It is. It's going to be
Today
great.
we've got all 6 of our Kit Classics gondola cars here. We've got CB&Q, Norfolk and Western, Conrail, Chicago Northwestern, Soo Line, and Burlington Northern. What have we got on the point of the train today? We're going to run these around. Tell us about the locomotive.
And we've got one of my several scale trains, SD40s, SD40-2s. This is a Norfolk and Western 6000 series unit. Beautiful locomotive, great detail, sound is good, just an excellent model.
All right. Well, let's get it started up, and we'll take a look at these gondola cars while we're doing that. So the CB&Q built these in their Havelock shops. So they're 52-foot, 6-inch payload dimensions on the inside. We've got quite a few here. Ed, do you think you're going to add some of these to your...
I'm going to definitely get a Burlington and at least one Norfolk and Western, perhaps a couple of Norfolk and Westerns, but they're really nice cars. Gondolas are, you know, especially if you model right parts of the country, part of NNW, the Wabash, Nickel Plate, a lot of steel mills, a lot of stuff like that, so you saw a lot of gondolas.
These are great cars. It's the first addition to our Kit Classics line since the boxcar came out several years ago. Right now, the locomotive sounds like it's ready to go, so we're going to take a spin around the railroad. Take a look at our cars. Ed, thanks for having us over today to show off our brand new Kit Classics gondola car here on your railroad. We can't wait to come back and visit your railroad again and see what you've done. And we'll have more announcements later, but right now we're going to go back to Shane and Drayton in the control room.
Well, thanks, Mark and Ed. We really appreciate you taking the time this morning to show us the Kit Classics gondola in action. And of course, we appreciate Ed letting us use his train layout. As you can see, Ed's got a really big railroad, and actually later today we'll be showing the museum quality announcement on that railroad too. So Drayton, we got a couple more minutes here, and we've had a few folks, and there's been some questions online. And if you'd like to post your questions, we might not get to them in this segment, but we'll have another segment later today, so you're welcome to post those online. One thing we did get some questions on, and we really didn't plan on talking about it, but it's some of the products that are behind us.
Yeah, definitely.
And we'll start on your side. Of course, the brand new Bethgon coal porter, or Bethgon coal gondola. This is the Conrail G52X and in rivet counter. And there's like 24 different road numbers plus a gray car that's coming, available with 2 different loads that you can add on to those. Those are going to be here this spring. and also doing them in the Operator brand. And of course, the big difference there is in the Rivet Counter brand, you get all the separately applied detail, whereas in the Operator brand, you can add those details. Drayton setting the Operator car there on the table.
That's actually the Rivet Counter.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
That's Conrad actually only painted 2 cars gray, and we decided to do one of them, and we're really grateful for the photography that we had in order to make this car.
All right, the other thing that we've got up high is the new ES44s. These are actually supposed to go on the boat within the next week, so we'll be having those in March. This will be the first run of the regular road names, and as you can see, these are all the early samples that have come in, have all that railroad road number era-specific detail that you become accustomed to, everything like the NS high headlight. You've got
front and rear ditch lights too.
Yeah, on the NS. We of course went to new lighting effects too. We've got walkway lights on those as well as ground lights. And then over here on this side, up at the top is the next run of the Tier 4 Gevo, or the ET44. We're doing the Wabtec version. Wabtec really, they never made this particular one, but in all their marketing materials when they acquired GE, they had mocked up this particular locomotive. We thought it looked really cool in the red, gray, and black. Kind of looks like our colors. Maybe that's why we thought it was cool. And so we did that locomotive, and then of course we're doing the CSX Georgia Road. One of the things we're going to do on the Georgia Road models, we're going to donate a portion of those proceeds to Kentucky Steam, and so there'll be another donation coming there soon. And the next shelf down, within the next week or so, will be the new next water tender shipment. We are sold out of the Jim Adams and the Joe Jordan, but we do still have some of the silver water tenders. The silver water tenders, those are kind of unique in the fact that in the early 70s, UP placed those all around the system, and they would have diesel fuel, sometimes fuel oil, and they would essentially use them where they could do remote fueling. And then those eventually became the steam tenders for the steam program. And then the SD45s on the next 2 shelves, those will come in also at the same time as the water tenders. They're on the way, be here in about a week or so. Both Rivet Counter and Operator, including the N&W and the Bicentennial units. And then 4785 hoppers, this is the next run that'll be coming later this spring. So a little bit of everything, a little overview of what's behind us. And then we've got a special guest that we're going to bring in here in just a moment. As you guys might know, we have a new resident in the neighborhood, and so we're going to bring this person in. I think you guys will all recognize him when he comes around here. Come on in. We'll put you in the middle, kind of a rose between 2 thorns.
I'll take it.
So for those of you guys who don't know, this is James Wright. James relocated to Southeast Tennessee. I wasn't supposed to disclose that. I did that back in August, though, and so I kind of messed up on that. But James is in the neighborhood now, and we figured we might have a couple of extra minutes here at the end of our segment, so we thought we'd bring James in, let him share what he's got going on with his YouTube channel.
Well, the YouTube channel is expanding into many different scales. If you guys haven't heard of the channel, it's youtube.com/JLWII2000. And on the channel, you'll see lots of reviews of different products, and then eventually a layout again, Shane, if I can find a house here in Tennessee, which has been a rough
Housing's been tough.
Yeah, it has.
And then when you try to find a basement in the topography of East Tennessee, it's even tougher.
Yeah.
So we've been a few months into a house search, but hopefully we can find a nice expansive layout. Ed Painter's layout that you guys saw earlier is something that gives me some inspiration to find that much space, but it's kind of hard, and we may end up looking at building after a while if that doesn't work.
Yeah.
But on the channel, you'll find lots of different reviews for now, and even G-scale, which is a little hard when you're dealing on basically a picnic table worth the size.
Yeah.
But there's also been a lot of Scale Trains products. We looked at the, man, I can't even think of
Pride and Service units recently,
CSX units.
A couple Dash 9s too.
Which I mentioned is also, a lot of people are kind of breezing over this fact, but that's your first Tier 3 Gevo locomotive, and it gives us a good sense of what we're going to see in Tier 3 Gevo units if you guys decide to do other paint schemes, which would make sense if you did.
Well, that's what's over your shoulder there on the right.
Yeah. So
yeah.
So it's hard to keep track of all the product, industry wide. It's just flying, and people that say the hobby is struggling, it's just not true. There's so much in the hobby, so many new announcements, and manufacturers like Scale Trains that are always pushing the envelope, coming up with new products. I like to see new products, you know, things that haven't been tooled before, things that haven't been released before, or things that haven't been released with a great amount of detail, or some of the more technology prone things that we have now, like ESU loc sound, ditch lights that flash, things that 10, 15 years in the hobby ago you wouldn't be able to see. So it's great to see those items. So you can see those items on my channel. You may see some rail fanning come back in there, but occasionally, because there's so much great rail fanning here, like Norfolk Southern action and CSX action. And my railroad is going to reflect that as well when we find a place to build. So it's going to have a little more NS and CSX representation, you know, on the layout. So that's kind of what's going on my channel. And then I got some questions for you on your product, Shane, because we talked about the auxiliary tenders, but I don't think I was aware that these are coming out. Are those, you want to talk about that a little bit?
The silver water tenders?
Yeah, silver water tenders. I saw those earlier and I was like, I must have missed that.
Well, James, there's always a silver lining.
Well, the silver water tenders were
Fun
maintenance.
Central.
Yeah, it's fun working with Drayton. So the silver water tenders, they were maintenance water tenders. They were painted in the traditional UP maintenance scheme back in the early 70s, and they were line side around several different areas, often in remote areas that they could use for as a fuel tender. Okay. So they might have had gasoline or the diesel fuel or whatever they might need for that particular area. And then those eventually ended up becoming the steam excursion tenders.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I missed that announcement. So looks like another.
Well, don't worry, James. We're accepting pre-orders now.
Well, and another silver lining is if you model a fake short line railroad like myself, and you want to have an interesting fuel facility, you can add those cars. You can repaint them, or you can even patch them, and they'll look great on your layout. So, like Shane was saying, if you have a layout that's like in Idaho or Montana, somewhere way off the beaten path, those cars would be great additions to the yard, because the fuel trucks can just come in, load them up, and then you've got fuel for several weeks, if not months.
So one thing too, James, while you're here, you're going to hang around. I think we're going to shoot some video for your channel that you'll be posting tomorrow.
Yes.
So if we miss any highlights on the things we're talking about today, maybe you can help us remember that as we chat.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I'll have a post tomorrow on my channel of all the announcements, kind of recapped into their own video for all the announcements from Virtual Railfan here. So since you guys are close, you guys get to benefit a little bit from me bothering you to crash your party everywhere.
Well, I'll tell you what, James, I got to give him big kudos. He lives near one of my favorite restaurants, and he brought us a pecan pie not long ago. Did you bring one today?
No.
Oh, so disappointed.
You should have told me.
Oh, so you're still doing reviews though, even though you don't have a layout.
Yep. Yeah, I've got essentially a picnic table, one of those collapsible tables. I'm basically spending a little more time on testing and things like that, so you guys can see more of the testing aspect of the product. So we do a little more NMRA compliance, a few other tests like radius testing I'll be incorporating to spend a little more time there, since we can't do really run-bys, and eventually a home will come. You know, it was a multiple stage process just to get out of here, retiring from the military, and then finding a second career here, getting settled, and then starting the house hunt really seriously. We started it back in spring, but it was more of like being uber picky, and now we're just like, give me a layout space and give me a 3-car garage and I'm good. So we're in the process of looking. Hopefully it speeds up. But in the meantime, there's a lot of testing and real tight shots, because there's not a lot of space that you can see the products up close in. And I try to mix it up a little bit too. I'll put some other products or other aspects of model railroading online, such as, like I said, rail fanning. Occasionally we'll go out to Ed Painters, and we should probably shoot a video out there. And
yeah, definitely.
Then you have a huge YouTuber here that, you know, we'll have to collaborate on some things as well. Maybe head up to Kentucky Steam or something. So.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, well, gentlemen, we're coming up to the last little bit of our segment today. Want to thank everyone who has been tuning in and watching. Hopefully you're as excited, if you're an N-scale modeler, about the Multimax. If you're an HO person, HO modeler, you're liking the gondola. We will be back a little bit later this afternoon. We'll be announcing our next museum quality locomotive. We're pretty excited about this one. This one, you know, there's been a lot of speculation. Is it going to be a West Coast locomotive since the first one was West Coast? You know, could it be somewhere else? And I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised. This particular release, you know, maybe we'd give them a little hint. It is a little more unique, right? I mean, the tagline is legendary locomotives. So with legendary locomotives, there's a lot of opportunities out there. It could be steam, could be diesel, but, you know, we talked about lighting effects, so that might kind of hint towards a diesel locomotive. So we'll be talking about that later today, and then, of course, we'll be back tomorrow. And then tomorrow we have a huge announcement, an industry announcement that we're really excited to share. James will have that on his broadcast as well later tomorrow. And I want to say thanks so much to the team up north and John and his group for all they're doing to help put this show on. I want to thank James for joining us, Drayton for his time. He was up all night editing video, and of course the virtual Railfan team. We're going to send it back now to the virtual Railfan folks and the next segment. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Hey everybody, we're back and welcome back. And boy, that's only the first part of what's new at Scale Trains. Shane, gosh, when I said, "What's up, Shane?" Shane, what's up? That was quite a presentation. Thank you so much for that. And we'll see you again later on this afternoon. So what's next, guys? Let's take a trip down to North Coast Engineering, and they're commonly known as NCE. So let's go check out James Scorsese and see what Jimmy is doing over at his shop. So if I head over to the website, guys, I'm going to look for NCE, and it's ncedcc.com, and we're gonna see his website. And actually, lots of things going on here. But what I wanted to take your attention to was he's telling you all about the popular items up at the top here. And then there's all kinds of things about wiring. But as you look down, there's a lot of information. But check out that little yellow sticky note, if you will. Easy stuff. You can actually click and see what's new, and it takes you to everything that's new going on. What is the popular items are right now. I just talked to Jim last week and was telling him, hint, hey Jim, my Berlin, Bangor, and Maine railroad is all North Coast, and with throttles, et cetera. It was a funny conversation. We actually talked about the fact that the guys at Amherst think, hey, we should buy one throttle, make sure they're all tuned correctly so there's no conflicts, and then we'll go around to everybody's layout in the round robin that I referred to earlier on the Tuesday nights when Joe was with us, and we'll each have our own throttle. Jim didn't like that idea. And I said, Jim, you don't have to worry about it, because for whatever the reason, all of us have 10 or so throttles. You know, some of the larger railroads, guys, we have 10, 15 throttles. So that's what he wanted to hear. So it was funny. But being a good sport, he says, seriously, anything wrong, and, you know, have people ship it back, et cetera, et cetera. It's been really cool. So you could see some of the new things. His Next 18 decoder is out, and there's a lot of things going on, guys. A 6-foot USB serial cable for the Power Pro interface. There's all kinds of stuff happening there. So do not hesitate to go there. And if you're ever in any kind of trouble, call them. They have great customer support. So do not hesitate, especially when you go and you look at the top of the website. Right next to home, it says information, and it'll tell you what's going on, how to contact them, all kinds of stuff going on there. Okay, wireless upgrades. I've sent a couple of throttles back for the antenna upgrade, so to hide the antenna, and that's happened with ease. So all kinds of great things. The belt lines, that large module railroad, guys, that comes to the show every year. That's right in the center of the Better Living Center. That's all run on NCE. So lots of things going on there, and we know and love those guys. So we really thank you very much for being a part of this show today, Jim, in North Coast. Guys, let's now go to Ron's books. Now, a little bit of a backstory with Ron's books, guys. I was originally clinic manager at the train show. And that was, oh gosh, back in the 2002 to 2004 or 5. I think my first show director gig was, I think 2006, guys, because yeah, this is like 15 years. But anyways, when I was first a clinic chair, sorry, I would ask, where is Ron's books? And they just weren't in the show. And I could never figure out why. And the short story is, I called Ron my first year as show director, and he was still angry at us for not being in the show. And I just couldn't figure out what the real story was. I still called him every year, and I finally got him to come to the show. And the only reason why I mentioned that, and that was probably, I don't even remember now, guys. It's probably 2008, 2009. And the friendship has grown. And that's one part of this show that I like. But just to reflect on me for a minute, everything I do, it's more than business. It's business, yes, but I want to develop that friendship as well. And did I ever, with Ron and Lee and Ellie? Now, as most of you know, Ron passed away not too long ago, and I was sorry to see that. But Lee and Ellie Rosenberg are just off the wall doing a great job down there. And so I've known them forever, and they finally made it to the show. We gave them a ton of space, and they do extremely well. These are the premier book people, guys. So we need to have folks like that at the show. They're gold class service sponsors, which we appreciate a ton. And they have books like you wouldn't believe. And let's go take a look and see what's going on at Ron's books. So I'm going to head down in the directory, guys. So we'll go back to that directory on our landing page, go down to the R's, and there's Ron's books, Lee and Ellie Rosenberg. I click on ronsbooks.com, and we have a clearance sale going on, hot off the presses, upcoming releases. If you need a book, this is where you go. All right. So this is an interesting stuff. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit. You know what? Let's go click on hot off the presses. I just wanted to scroll down and take a peek. But if you go to hot off the presses, one of the things that caught my interest, because I am an operator, guys, is that second book right there. It's actually the one right in the middle. Look at all the pages. They have 11 pages of hot off the presses. Give me a break. So I looked at operations. I clicked on operations to get a close-up of it, see how much the book is and what's happening. And the first thing that caught my eye was a compendium of model railroad operations from design to implementation. I had to look that up, compendium, and not to be silly. And I'm sure the author will not be fun. But it's an OPSEC book, so yeah, it's not the end of the world. But I had to look it up. And I said, well, I kind of know what it is, but it's a collection of I'm reading. It's a collection of concise but detailed information about a particular subject, especially in a book or other publication. So honestly, I started checking it out. It's all about operations. And that's one of my favorite things. And that takes me back to what people like about this hobby. You know, there's so many rail fans out there. Look at virtualrailfan.com. But not to make you angry at me, Mike, that's not my favorite thing to do. I like going to railroads, model railroads, looking around and say, how did you do that? The one time I went to Celios's fine scale miniatures, the Franklin and whatever layout, and I probably made George crazy. I asked him 10,000 times, how'd you do that? But you know what? Not to change the subject, but he answered me every single time with detail. So I'm sure that's what's in this operations book, but that's just one of how many that Ellie and Lee are selling. So check out this site, guys. These are the folks that I know, I trust, I love. These are great people. So check it out when you have a chance. But I'm sure 9 out of 10 people already know about them. So keep that in mind. And they're at the train show. You know where they are? They're at the end of Main Street. So when I say Main Street at our show, guys, I'm talking the Better Living Center, one of our 4 buildings, which total 350,000 square feet. That's like 10 plus acres of trains. But if you walk in the building at door 7, our office is right there on the right. If you walk all the way straight down Main Street, you'll pass a few people, you'll recognize a few people, but all the way to the wall, that's where Ron's Books is located. And they have a huge space, and they have space for you to browse, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So keep that in mind, that they are wonderful at that. So let's go look at a couple of things, just a couple shout outs and reminders, guys. Nothing too serious here, but as far as where you have to travel or anything. But I want you to see on our landing page, don't forget that there's that ad down there about Atlas. Atlas has been a long time sponsor for us, and here they are yet again helping us with this virtual show. But I also want you to do a shout out to the Berkshire Scenic. These are nonprofits, guys, and we need to support them. So if you go back into the directory and then go to Berkshire Scenic Railroad, berkshiretrains.org, obviously the .org gives it away, just as amherstrail.org. We are a nonprofit as well. But you could see everything that's going on there. And they have all of these policies, et cetera, with COVID and stuff, but they're still running and trying to run and do all kinds of things. So keep that in mind as well. Also, shout out reminder, Bar Mills, guys, Bar Mills, Art Fahey and Lenny. Got to have a shout out to Lenny. They're running clinics and items all day today and tomorrow. So, and they've got all kinds of show specials. Artie is doing this in honor of this train show. So he wanted to have extra things going on for extra people. So keep that in mind. And also don't forget Barrett Hill Trains, guys. We've got a shout out to all the people. So as a reminder, go to this directory that's in the landing page and check out all 81 of the vendors that are there. Exhibitors as well. I shouldn't say vendors because not everybody is truly a vendor. There are model railroads in there. There are nonprofits in there. I don't like using the V word. I like exhibitors. So keep that in mind. All right. So that's where we're headed. And we've got a couple things going on here, guys, but we're going to actually take a break just for a second. And before we end up revealing the people behind the curtain, Mike, let's go to another cam and let's see what's going on. Pick out a cam and let's head over there and see what's going on.